Hello and welcome back to another episode, Tribe family. If you are enjoying these episodes and feeling completely inspired to do possibly just as I am, you should give Anchor.fm a try and record your own podcast absolutely free. They have all the tools to be as creative as you want, and not only that, they'll do all the work to distribute your episodes to every major platform. Best part is, you can even start earning money from having just a little bit of fun. Get over to Anchor.fm, download their app, or head over to their full website. Until then, enjoy this next amazing travel story from my next guest.
Good morning. This is your wake-up call. Wake-up call. Wake-up call. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello, podcast world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the globe tuning in with our tribe and Inspire the Collective. Welcome to our podcast series and online community. Real quick, I wish to intro you all to one of the little areas of the web in which we are located. We're here. Each podcast season and guest will be different to keep information fresh and perspectives evolving. We will be covering a variety of different topics to bring recognition to the weavers out there, the ones that are truly living their dream life, while also inspiring the dreamers, the ones looking to develop their own passions to chase the life they have always wanted to live. Season 1 is underway, and we are jumping into another episode of What's in Your Backpack, a season full of travel topics where we will be chatting with international travelers from all over the world and all different walks of life. Each episode will bring insider travel tips and tricks, entertaining personal stories for the do's and don'ts, and guided inspiration for the where-tos and where-nots to benefit your travel addictions. I am Michael O'Shea, aka your neighborhood travel guide, aka King of the 2-Day Holiday, aka the passport filler, aka Catch Me If You Can. Ladies and gentlemen, I am super happy and honored to have this season's first powerful woman traveler on the show. And let me just briefly share why. Her travels and journey since I met her have made me beyond envious countless times over. She hits the corners of the planet most people wouldn't even think to go. She really is a freak about adrenaline-filled adventures. And from my opinion, she should just be getting paid to inspire all of us through her stories. She's a huge ball of fun, energy, and joy, yet at the same time, she always finds a way to pour her heart out into giving back to help others in so many different ways. Miss Tenaiya, how are you today? And thank you for joining me on this third episode.
Aloha, everyone, and thank you for that amazing intro. Flattered.
Hey, it's all true. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm super excited to get into your perspective and stories, especially being the first female and woman on the show, because I feel you will be able to bring a huge impact to the female listeners and inspiring their inner desires to travel. But Tenaiya, before we get into it, I have this brief little disclaimer for my guests to protect the listeners before we get into this episode. Are you with me?
Yes.
All right. So I don't want any BS, no bullshit, just to create the story for the show, which I know you won't. The intent of our time together is to bring raw and honest facts from your personal experiences to benefit our listeners for their travel future. We want to know you. We want that nitty gritty, whether that be the stories we can't even fathom to be true, to even the embarrassing stories you have a hard time admitting to others happened. It's all real, no judgment, and sharing with the sole intent to inspire. Tenaiya, are you in and willing to open your travel backpack and share with the world your story?
I'm in, and buckle up.
Yeah, your life is about buckling up for sure. Just real quick, like how I met Tenaiya, it was when I was living in Indonesia in 2013. I was there, and if you know me, I was DJing briefly a bit while I was traveling. I'm not a DJ. I just know how to DJ. And I had gotten a connection to DJ this event that Tenaiya was hosting and overseeing. And the event was really fun. It was small for this hotel, like I think a corporation. And yeah, Tenaiya was there working, and we connected, and she was from the States. And so we ended up just like chatting from there, and just, we've become friends. She followed my DJ stories. She helps me with travel tips on where to go, what to see, what to do. And as I said, you always make me envious of where you go and what you do. So like, please, could you just share a bit about yourself further than what I know you? Like, where are you living? What are you doing? And, how do you choose to live the life you have?
Yeah, so I was born in the Kingdom of Hawaii, and I was educated here. I also lived internationally and in the United States. And then I spent the last 10 years in Southeast Asia doing international work. And then I moved back home to Hawaii to do environmental work. So that's kind of, I started off traveling young, and I think that's what began. And Hawaii itself is really international. So it kind of just lends itself to that lifestyle of moving around and exploring and adventure.
Yeah, and Hawaii is mostly based off tourism, right? Like that's how how the island really kind of functions.
Yes, tourism is the major industry here, but it didn't used to be that way. It used to be different industries. So definitely now it's all tourism, and I'd like to kind of change that a bit because it's a little too dependent.
Yeah, and from brief conversations we've had, which I do want to chat about a bit later, was some of those things that you are changing on the island and the perspectives of the island really being self-sustainable, and I think that's just so amazing. So I definitely want to be able to have you share more about that and educate us on what you're doing. But you said you started traveling young. Like, when did you first get out off the island, and when was the first time you kind of got international?
Gosh, I must have been really young when I just went to the mainland, probably 10 or so, to go to Denver, to go to Massachusetts. But I think it was when I was 13 that I first went internationally. And my dad was working in the Philippines. So I remember we would go to Hong Kong. My stepmom was working there. We also went to Bali. And ultimately, I went to school in the Philippines. So that's when it started.
Wow, I didn't know you went to school in the Philippines. Like, where did you guys live there?
In Makati. I went to the
That's why.
International School of Manila.
Oh, that's amazing. I have a lot of Philippine listeners, and obviously because I live there, I have a lot of people there. That's freaking awesome, because I lived in BGC, which is, just, well, realistically it's only a few kilometers, a couple of miles, but it takes an hour or more to get there with traffic.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And then so you said you've been living in Southeast Asia and Indonesia. Like, how long did you live in Indonesia before moving back to Hawaii?
So I was in Indonesia for 10 years, and now I've been in Hawaii for 2.
Is Indonesia the only other than Philippines, that the only other place that you've lived internationally?
I lived for a little bit in China. I did a kind of exchange program there. So I was studying Mandarin, and I wanted to go live with a family. And that's a whole other story. But basically, when I arrived, they said, your family isn't going to take you. But all the other students got to go with their families. And that's when I first got my taste of international politics. There was a bomb that went off at the U.S. Embassy at that time. And so there was a lot of distrust of Americans. So instead of going with a family, I lived in the dorms with all the other Chinese students. So that was my first experience living on my own internationally.
Wow. I was trying to learn Mandarin when I lived in Singapore. It's not an easy, it is the hardest language to learn. Like, did you get pretty far in learning?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I was pretty fluent. Like I lived and functioned really well. I actually think
Wow.
English is probably the hardest to learn, but it's easy for us because we grew up with it.
Yeah,
Whenever I try
sure.
to explain English to other people, I always just off the bat say there's lots of exceptions to the rules that don't make any sense, and you just have to hear it to know it.
Yeah, when I was learning Spanish when I was traveling in South America, I realized all the extra fluff we put into our language. Like, there's a bunch of stuff we just don't need to use.
Right, right.
It's very interesting. Yeah, Mandarin, I really appreciated when I was trying to learn that language when I lived in Asia. So I didn't even know you did that. You spoke that. That's awesome. So you said you started traveling super early. This is kind of a funny question, but how many passports have you went through in that time?
I have lost track, but I think I've probably about 6 passports,
Jeez
and
Louise.
they aren't like the regular passports. They're the kinds that are the
Extra
double wide.
pages? The extra pages. Oh my God.
They don't really make them like that anymore, where you can get extra pages and then add another 50 pages.
Yeah.
But
You have to get it with right away. I just learned that because here, this is funny. So I went to leave. I got a brand new passport before I moved to Singapore, and it was completely full in 2.5 years. I was pretty shocked, but I didn't get the extra pages. No, I'm not on your level yet. But I went to go to Singapore, and I had no idea I had any additional pages left. And they stopped me at immigration, and they wouldn't let me in. They took me into the side office and were like, "Sir," I had no idea what was going on. And they were like, "You have no more pages in your passport." I said, "Oh." So I was like, I was kind of proud of myself that I was in the side room for that.
I feel like if any one of your listeners knows why that's a thing, I'd really like to know. I mean, eventually I hope we move to like a better system, but why do you need extra pages? Like, why can't you just squish it in on one of the other pages?
That's what a lot of other countries do, like Europe. They don't care. They just stamp right on top.
Right?
Yeah, like you said, and just for the American travelers, so you know, I thought you could still get the extra additional pages because when I got my first passport, you could. Now you cannot, and so they're like, no, you have to order a brand new one. You can't do that anymore. So if you're American and you're just starting to get your passport, my advice is just get the additional pages. I actually don't even think they charge you anymore. Just get it because you never know.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. I have to ask because you did live over in China and Asia, and you do travel so much, and in light of everything that's going on with this virus, does it change your perspective? And I know you went through a lot with this virus in Hawaii, and I would love for you to share a bit about that, about how all the people just kept coming there, and there were some demonstrations going on to like stop people. But in your eyes, like, does it change your perspective on traveling?
I've always kind of maintained the perspective that travel should be more than just a fun thing to do. So for me, that hasn't really changed that much. But I think when people see on the news photos of an area that is now more beautiful than it was before, or where turtles are returning, I think that's inspiring people to think
Mm.
and say, maybe these places do need a little bit of a break. Maybe we should consider how we're visiting and not just that we are visiting. So I think that's a good change that's
Yeah.
happened because of the virus.
I think that's a beautiful perspective. I didn't really think about that, thinking like if people will look at, wow, look at the change. Now, do you feel on the counterpart that could be also negative? Like, wow, look at all this. I want to go there and see those turtles.
Absolutely. In fact, there was a lot of people I saw on Instagram that were coming to Hawaii even after we had quarantine for 14 days. And they were just saying, look, there's nobody on the beach except me. And my ticket was $75.
Ugh.
And so it's very tempting for sure. But that's the minority. The majority, I think, are kind of getting a different view of the world, which is more important to me than the few that aren't.
Yeah, I'm really appreciating how, everyone can say it's conspiracy and whatever else, it was man-made, who cares? But like you look at what the earth really is going through. I lived I worked at Solaire, which is right on Manila Bay in the Philippines. In that area, the water stinks, like it's bad and it's very dirty, very brown. And now if anyone's seen pictures of Boracay, and I know you've been there, that area looks like that now. It's clean. It's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
So you have to know, like, this really is doing something for the earth. Like, we are going through a beautiful change, which she needed big time. Speaking about traveling and view and portraying things, like, I want to touch on, because we're talking about the media. How do you feel, especially as a woman? Like, how does the media portray traveling for you in terms of safety and your desires?
I've been surprised actually. I get more negative views from people that are close to me than the media. Maybe that's based on the media that I consume. But for example, when I first moved to Indonesia, there was some friends that were really concerned for my safety, and they thought I would have to just be covered head to toe and that I'd need a chaperone. When I went to Brazil and Colombia, people were
Mm.
nervous that I'd get kidnapped or
Yeah.
um, definitely when my mom listens to this, if she does, she was concerned. I told her I was going to go stay in the favelas in Brazil, and she was like,
Wow.
are you out of your mind?
I would have
Like,
said the same.
I want you to live. And same like in Indonesia, I went to Papua, and some of my Indonesian friends were really scared for me. They thought I was going to get shot with a bow and arrow. And, all of the comments are all towards my safety. But I've actually found that traveling as a woman, based on the stories that I hear from, my male friends, that it seems to be easier. People are almost, I think, nicer and more accommodating to women. So I actually found it to be better. I'm not getting in bar fights, at 2 a.m. or like threatening a man's territory because I walked a certain way. Usually people are a little bit, I think, more accommodating for women. So I'd say it's easier.
I love that. And I love that perspective for a lot of female travelers. And that's not just America, because you still hit, oh, it's unsafe for me. Oh, I can't. I'm just a woman. And, I've met so many women travelers that are, 18, 19 in my long amount of my travels in the hostels and stuff. And that they're out there doing it alone. And I love hearing that perspective that it's safer for you. Now, that doesn't mean, bring your Louis Vuitton purse out and, your super expensive, your Gucci shoes and be walking through the La Favelas. Like, there has to be some common sense in
Right.
what you're doing. Right. So, I think I've always felt, even in times when I feel maybe I shouldn't be somewhere, it's like, if you walk like you're supposed to be there and you act like it, no one will know, you just fit in.
Yeah, and I guess I tend to blend in pretty well. I'm pretty comfortable, kind of confident person. So I don't look terrified, and I definitely don't look like I have $1 million car sitting in the garage or something. So
Yeah.
I think I'm good in that sense.
Yeah.
It's
And
been great.
your big, huge smile, like, I'm sure people are just like, how can I help you? Can I give you all my food? Like, do you need any free stuff?
Yeah, yeah, my experience has been just like that, really, really positive. And frankly, when I was younger, I always I didn't travel as much because I always thought that I should go to certain places with people or with a partner. So for example, I've always wanted to go to Paris, but I thought, no, I should go there with my boyfriend, or that's a
Yeah.
honeymoon destination, or I should go to Vegas only with a pack of girls. And one day I just said, fuck it. I'm going to make a list of all the places that I wanted to go. And I just made like an epic trip. I think one of the big world trips that I did, it's different than most people. So I just said, I want to go to New York. I want to go to Vegas. I want to go to Paris, London, Brazil. Like, I want to go to all these places. So I just made a trip for those places. And I straight flew from city to city by myself, did Vegas by myself, did Paris by myself. And it was amazing. I'm so glad that I did. And once people started to see me traveling, then I would say, hey guys, I'm going to go to Boracay. Anybody want to come? And people had then already seen that this is how I travel. And so people started to come. And it just kind of went from there.
I love that you can just get out there and go, because it just shows that you can, if as long as the desire meets the willpower to do it, you can really go. And it. And I actually have a question in a bit that I want to ask you about. Traveling with other someone. Traveling alone, it really takes a special someone, and to enjoy the time and the company with yourself, and to still be able to, just love where you're at without having to say, hey, do you think this is pretty? And hey, are you having fun? It's just like enjoying yourself and your own self happiness is really a special thing to have.
Absolutely. And I think frankly, it's better because when you're by yourself, you can be 100% selfish. So you
Yeah.
don't accommodate what somebody wants to eat. If somebody's tired, if somebody, sees something else, like it's 100% what you want to do, when you want to do it, you can change your mind. And you meet way more people by yourself than when you're
Yes.
sitting across the table talking to the same person, or you just venture out more because you have to. So I think it's almost better to travel by yourself.
Yeah, I think so too. I've met so many more people, and you're more open to whatever could and would happen. So yeah, so true. I enjoy that perspective. I love traveling alone now. Okay, you just said something that I have to ask. How many have you counted how many times you've actually went around the earth on a plane?
No, but my brother always posts every year. He like tracks his trips on Google.
Uh-huh.
And so at the end of the year, he always posts, I've gone around the world 4 times this year.
Wow.
Last year was 2 times or so. I was like, geez, maybe I should do that. But as soon as he posts that, then I feel a little guilty. Like, oh my God, uh, how much emissions have I
Yeah.
contributed to this earth? It's a lot. So maybe I will.
You should. I think I'm at two, like actually full revolutions.
In your whole life.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't count like miles distance wise. Just I've actually went in like a full circle in trips doing stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When it comes to your travel and your travel junkie list, do you have a bucket list? And if you do, have you reached your top one already?
I absolutely have a list, and it seems to just
Keep
keep
getting
growing.
older.
Um, anybody who knows me knows what's at the top of the list, and it is to go to the moon with SpaceX. Second is probably to hit the outer atmosphere with Virgin Galactic. And then I always have like a fun bucket list. Like I'd like to spend a month in the Caribbean, kind of just sailing around from place to place. I want to do more in Africa, like Madagascar, and I absolutely want to go to Antarctica. So,
Yeah, it's on mine. That's 100%. I mean, see, now here's the difference. Your bucket list is like children's imagination, and your fun list is like my bucket list. And that's what, and here's the thing. Like, I don't doubt that you will actually do both of your top two. And that's the funny thing that people need to know about you and knowing your journey is you have no fear of giving up the things that make you comfortable to go get the things that you really want to have happen in your life. And I really admire that about you. It's pretty amazing.
oh yeah, I'm on the wait list.
Oh
It's
my
definitely a
God.
thing. I'm not joking.
I
I'm
know you
gonna be
are.
there.
That's the Virgin one, right? Or are you on the wait list for like the moon for real?
The Virgin one has a wait list. The
Yeah.
Moon one, not yet. Although
Oh my gosh.
their targets seem to be like pretty focused on Mars. I'm not interested to go to Mars. I know that might be surprising, but I definitely want to come back to Earth. And I feel
Yeah.
like anybody going to Mars they're gonna stay there.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Could you just pack me on your carry-on or is like that not okay?
Yeah, I mean, how much money do you have to pay for the seat? I'm sure carry-ons are expensive.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Out of all the places you've been, has there been any place that's completely just captivated you that you really love frequenting there?
Absolutely. Hands down, Namibia. And
Where is that?
it's in Africa, and it feels like I've gone to Mars. So see, that's why I don't need to go.
Wait, is that the place? I think you sent me
But
photos of this
Namibia,
place.
yeah, it's where those big red sand dunes are,
Yeah.
the dead tree kind of
Mm-hmm.
area is. It just feels like otherworldly. And I definitely went really deep. So like really far into the country. And I'll never forget it. I went to this place, and at night there was like this outdoor like bathtub jacuzzi thing, and you look up, it's all open air, and I could see the Milky Way the way you see it in a photo. I don't mean little specks of stars. I mean like I could see it. And
Wow.
I just like it blew my mind. So definitely yeah, Namibia was really amazing. And then I'd say second to that, because I love animals so much,
Mm-hmm.
was my recent trip. I went free diving with humpback whales, and to be in the water with something that big and that amazing is just beyond anything I could describe. Like I obviously watch stuff on Nat Geo and I've seen videos, but when you're in the water and your body is vibrating from the sounds made from a whale, you're just such a speck. You're just such a nothing in
Wow.
comparison. It is so amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back and do that.
Now, okay, I got to get into the list then. Okay, so you free dive. I know you're certified to free dive, right?
Yes.
You're certified to scuba dive.
Yes.
I mean, share the rest of the certifications, please.
Certified weirdo.
Yeah.
Basically, whatever it is, I'm interested to try it.
Yeah.
So I also am I don't know if you call it a pro flyer. Basically, I spend a lot of time in those wind tunnels, like I fly.
Yeah. So it's indoor skydiving. So if you don't know what that is, so you basically, a lot of skydivers, they train indoors because obviously it's a lot safer and you can get more jumps in without having to repack. And so you learn to skydive there. And so where do you practice?
Unfortunately, there's no iFly in Hawaii, but I've gone to a bunch of different centers across the United States. And then also I used to go quite frequently to Singapore when I was in Asia. They
That's
have
where
one
I
there
did
on
it.
Sentosa. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest one. So it's incredible because you can go in with other people. So you can practice
Yeah.
maneuvers with other people that you'd want to do in the air because, fuck it, it's cool.
Yeah, it is. Now, are you certified to skydive yet?
I am not a certified skydiver. I should add that to the list.
I've got you on one thing. One. For now.
Very good.
So so scuba dive, I fly, you free dive, you've flown planes too, right?
I did, yeah. So I flew a fighter jet, and God, that's another incredible experience. That was top of my list, was to be able to fly. I actually didn't even want to fly it. The top of my list was just to sit in the back seat and have a pilot fly me around. And when I found out that I could actually fly it myself, I was just blown away. And the pilot that was there, he gave me shit because when he first handed over the controls, I mean, these are like multi-million-dollar, like these are very expensive pieces of equipment. And I don't want to die. So when he handed over the controls, he's like, all right, why don't you do like a loop, do a roll? And I did it. And he's like, what do you work for United? Like fucking fly it like you mean it. And I said, well, you don't have to tell me twice. Here we go. And then I was like pulling G's and like flipping around. And yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Wow.
That was pretty top of my list of things to do. So I'm glad I did that. I'll definitely want to do it again. They have another plane that you can do, like you can fly at the speed of sound and you can like make a sonic boom.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. It's
Where did
really
you do
fun.
that at, if you don't mind me asking?
That was in Texas. And actually I first wanted to do it in New York, but the restrictions in New York, for obvious reasons, were too annoying for me. So I just went to Texas where there's less restriction.
Yeah, that's so freaking rad. Incredible. Unbelievable. As I told you, always envious. Just gives me more stuff to like put on the top of my bucket list. When you travel, do you, I always like to ask this, especially for females too, like it's all about the journey is all about traveling and making memories. And so do you journal when you travel?
No, actually, I've never written down a journal.
I've shared this in the last episode, but I don't usually handwrite either. And I didn't in the first time, but this time when I went to South America, I used audio recording and I used a texting app, like an app on my phone. So I could just type it, which is obviously much faster. I mean, you have a bazillion photos and I'm going to get into your skills in photo taking here shortly. So I know you have that. And in your photo taking, do you like to use your drone, right?
I do. I love using the drone, and my brother and I, we went to Iceland and we brought his Phantom for a while, and I realized how annoying it was to bring and how
Yeah.
obvious it looks. People immediately ask you questions about it and you get stopped. So I got the Mavic Pro, that it just looks like a little bag, and no one's asked me a single question since I have the smaller one.
That's awesome. That's twice now. You and and Roman that was just on. He's same one. He uses the same one. That's awesome. Do you like to read while you're traveling? Like, do you like to pick up? Because it seems like you like to learn a lot. You learned in the Philippines. You've learned in China. Do you pick up stuff on like cultural knowledge before you go, or like the language, or what like keeps you affluent to where you're going?
Definitely. I like to look up what's happening in the area, and I find that the best way is to talk to someone that is from there or lives there. And I know that's hard to do if you're going to a place like way far out, but the world is not that big. So usually you can find somebody who knows somebody. And I think that information is the most valuable to me.
Yeah, asking like firsthand information, right?
Yeah, for example, like if anybody came to Hawaii, maybe they wouldn't know that there are protests going on, or they don't understand some of the deeper issues. You can't just Google like, what's the problem with Hawaii? And then the answer comes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's one reason I really started this podcast, was to get real, true, like verbal information from people, and not just stuff you would Google. It's real information. And now that you're speaking about Hawaii, could you just now, I want to protect your island and your home, but are there any really cool spots that people could, put on their list to go see and without ruining the integrity of Hawaii and say, wow, I never would have thought to come here?
Absolutely. So Hawaii is a chain of islands. And I think a lot of people, when they imagine Hawaii, they think of Waikiki, which is on one island. So I would say, look at the other islands. And specifically, I would go to the Big Island.
Kona's
And
awesome. That's Kona, right?
yeah, Kona is one of the areas, yeah. And you can go to Mauna Kea, which is where they're having protests right now. They're trying, not only is it beautiful to go there, but you can see real day culture issues. Like it's a living history book in the making. to go up there. And I don't mean go up and like take a selfie, but go up there and like live there in this community, and you can see how people function. They're doing free classes on Hawaiian issues and politics and all kinds of stuff. So I'd go to Mauna Kea. I would also probably, because I like adventure stuff, I'd do a blackwater dive. I don't think there's that many
Where's
places in the
that?
world that you can do a blackwater dive. But basically, you go out into the middle of the ocean at night and you do a dive. Normally, night dives are like along a reef, right? So the blackwater dive is cool because you're in the middle of black nothingness and you see all of the, bioluminescence and like
Wow.
weird alien creatures. And some of the photos that they've taken, they send to universities and they can't even identify what they're even looking at. They don't
Wow.
even know what it is. So otherworldly. Obviously the beaches, they have, you don't always have to go to like a white sand beach. They have like green sand beaches over there, different colors. So yeah, the Big Island is the best.
Yeah, and real quick to go back to it's Mount Mauna Kea, yeah? How do you
Yeah,
say
so Mauna means mountain in Hawaiian.
that? Yep.
So if you just say Mauna Kea, that means, that's the mountain.
Now that's where the observatory is, right? Like the space observatory?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, he goes there. Apparently there's some time a year, now correct me if I'm wrong. Joe Rogan had shared that they shut off all the lights and it's pure darkness, and he loves to go there because you can see the universe as it's supposed to be seen. Probably how you saw it in Namibia.
Yeah, you absolutely need the lights to be off
Mm.
all the way around. You need clear skies, and ideally the moon is not a full moon or half moon.
Yeah.
The moon is almost gone.
Yeah, he said it's when it's not in the sky. He's like, he likes it when there's no moon. He researches when there's no moon and the lights will be off. And he goes and he's like, it's the most spectacular thing he's ever seen.
Absolutely. But you know what? You can also just drive. I mean, I've been on the Big Island just driving at night, and I stop the car because I just want to look up. It is so incredible because there are so many stars, but you just can't see them in other cities. So it is gorgeous, and even more so, yeah, up there.
Wow.
But be careful when you go up. You definitely need a 4-wheel drive car if you're going to go all the way up, unless you're going to hitchhike. And you can get out of breath really quickly. You can walk 20 feet from your car and take a break.
Also,
So
altitude's high.
yeah, it's actually the highest mountain in the world if you count from the base to the tip.
Whoa.
Obviously, there's others that are taller from the sea level, but
Mhm.
yeah, it is way up there. So
Dang.
be careful.
No, speaking of, since you lived in Indonesia for long, are there any really amazing, like everyone knows Bali, right? Like everyone knows Bali and everyone sees all the photos and it's so beautiful. And then, and I hate to say this, it is beautiful in many different ways than what you see in the photos. But when you get there, sometimes you go, wow, this is not what I expected. So, because it is a third world island and I think people don't know that. Are there any other amazing places in Indonesia other than Bali that people should really look into going?
Absolutely. So if you put Indonesia over the United States, it would stretch further. That's how big it is.
Whoa.
So if only Bali is what you hear of, then it's like I've only been to Seattle and I don't know anything about any of the other cities.
Wow.
So yes, lots of places to go. I would say, I'd say go to Borneo. So Borneo is one of the biggest islands in the world. It's divided by 3 different countries, which is very unique. And in the majority of it is controlled by Indonesia, and that area is called Kalimantan. I went there to basically live on a little river boat, and they take you to a sanctuary for orangutans, and you just eat off of your boat. You get off sometimes to go trekking in little areas. And I had kind of a little mermaid moment when it was nighttime. They pulled the boat over to this little embankment, and I was like, what are we doing here? And they said, just wait. And I was just surrounded by glowing fireflies as I ate my little dinner. And night sky. And I was like, I feel like this little mermaid, when she's in the
Candlelit.
boat and she's like, go on and
Yeah.
kiss you. So I was, I was alone on that trip, but I still sang the song because I
Yeah.
was like, this is such a moment. So, yeah, really beauty, like natural beauty. And then also you can see, I got to see palm oil issues and bird's nest, not factory. It's basically where they collect bird's nest for bird's nest soup. So I got
Yeah.
to see a lot of things that I think people don't get to. And that kind of really launched my first questions about products that I'm using and sustainable products. Because you see when you live in Indonesia, and also sometimes I think people in Singapore and Malaysia experience this whenever they're burning the fields. It's so
Mhm.
much burning that it's just engulfs entire countries.
I was
It's
gonna
that.
speak. I was gonna say that too when you got done. I'm glad you brought that up because people don't understand. When I lived in Singapore, I worked at Marina Bay Sands on the rooftop of that 57th floor hotel, and when they start burning that palm oil from Indonesia, which is, I mean, it's close, but still, it's in another country. It engulfs the entire area. Like you can't even go outside. It's dangerous to be outside, and so this is the stuff that's going in a lot of our products. And so you start to learn. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's house is on fire, it makes the news in the United States. This is like an entire country
I
that's
know. It's
on
crazy.
fire, and every year it happens.
Yep.
It's not like, Australia is on fire this year and I mean, sorry, not to make that downplay that, but that it happens constantly. So yes, that was the first time that I really started to question products in my own life.
Yeah, Indonesian has some issues that people don't know about, just like the way it's treated. It's like a first world, some of those cities are first world cities in third world areas, and it's, they don't have the sustainability to actually live a sustainable life for our planet, which is kind of sad. And speaking of that sustainability acts, like that makes you want to be curious and get some tips from you, since you've lived in both these amazing island type places that are tourist driven destinations. For us travelers that want to go there because we still want to experience it and we are still going to go there, like how can we be educated to make sure we're respecting the islands and the culture, that we're not you know that we're not damaging the culture? How can we be better at, be sustainable? Like, is it no plastic? Is it bringing certain items? Like, how can we do our part to make sure we're keeping the potential of the place?
I've been asked this question before, so I actually made a post on Instagram about it to kind of explain. And you're absolutely right. Up there, number one, you respect local culture and customs, even if you don't agree with it. For example, if you go to a temple in Bali, you should wear a sarong if you're on your period. Like that sounds weird, but just do it because that's being respectful of an area. You're a visitor. So yes, that's top on the list. I always suggest people to support locally owned businesses. And sometimes that's hard to figure out. So maybe instead of staying at like the Hilton, you stay at somewhere else. Or if you're staying at an Airbnb, make sure you're staying at a place that has a family living in it instead of an empty apartment. Because as I'm
Mm,
sure people know, sometimes people rent out apartments and that drives up rent for locals in the area instead of
yeah.
people that are living there who are just trying to pay their own mortgage. So support local businesses from that sense, restaurants. Definitely minimizing your waste and plastic consumption. Just as an example, in Hawaii, there's 1.4 million people, but every year we get 10 million tourists.
Wow.
Now, our landfill is going to be full in 6 years' time. What's going to happen? And who's making all this trash? Well, we're
Everyone
all
else.
making the trash, but think about every bottle you buy, everything that you use is contributing to the kind of rapid use up of our only place to put trash. And
Mm,
what happens after that? There's also, the people that live near these landfills are having health issues because of the toxic chemicals. And I know that it's a really far disconnect when you're on the beach and you're like, I just want a cold thing of water. Let me just get a water bottle.
yeah.
But yeah, thinking about a big picture, then you start to wonder, are we contributing to the demise of the area that we love? And then I'd say also, don't support animal exploitation wherever you can. Indonesia is a big one. People like to see dolphin shows, monkey shows. Everyone wants to try luwak coffee, but luwak coffee is now basically where they entrap that animal in a cage. They force feed it. They make it shit out this bean so that you can drink coffee and tell people that you tried luwak coffee. So stuff like that. Definitely do some more digging. Don't just try it because it sounds cool. I'd say also think before you decide to haggle. I know that it's like cool to say that you did haggle, but also that's someone's livelihood.
Yeah, I learned that in Indonesia.
Also, I know this is a little controversial, but I try to avoid geotagging wherever I can, because that really, I think, contributes to like a herd of people coming as opposed to travelers who are really exploring an area. So I don't like geotagging unless it's a major monument. Like if I take a photo in front of the Eiffel Tower, you know exactly where I am. Right. But if I'm at a waterfall, I'm not going to say I'm at, Yeleng Yeleng waterfall. I'm just going to say I'm in Bali somewhere at a waterfall.
Yeah, for sure. Just so people know, geotagging is like posting where you're at on Instagram and like tagging you're at some sacred space. So that just means really telling people where you are. If you've left the normal area, and let's say you're with Tenaiya in Hawaii, she takes you to this beautiful, like secluded place where no one gets to that's a tourist, and then you tag where it's at, you tell people how to get there, and then more people go there, and then they start to diminish its beauty. So that's kind of what geotagging means.
Absolutely. And then the number one thing that I think I would suggest nowadays is to offset your carbon emissions. So I'll give you an example of what that means. Like if you fly from New York to California, that's about like 2,500 miles, right?
Yep.
And your seat on that jet will use about 0.24 pounds of CO2 per mile. So if you multiply your distance by that amount, that one trip would be 600 pounds of CO2. One tree can absorb 48 pounds of CO2 per year. So that would take 12 full-grown trees working a full year to basically consume the carbon that you did for that one trip from New York to California.
Wow.
And oftentimes people just select like buy carbon offset, here's my $5. And your $5 will buy you probably 12 seeds that they shoot out of an airplane somewhere. But that doesn't mean you have a tree. Seeds don't just take shot out of a drone or shot out of an airplane. Sometimes it takes 10 to 30 years for a tree to hit maturity. So I would say if you are the few that are privileged to travel, that comes with a big responsibility. Otherwise, we're all just contributing to the warming of our earth and destroying basically an area that we enjoy seeing. So when for example, I did a trip, and when I came back from the trip, I went to a place where I could plant a tree, a real tree. It will be there for my entire lifetime. I can track it and check up on it. And I would encourage people to do that in their areas too, not just buy a carbon offset, but really think about how much you're contributing to the Earth's atmosphere.
I'll be honest. Thank you for making me feel bad, even though you didn't do it on purpose. But hey, no, I appreciate it, because you're right. I have the luxury of traveling, and I choose to travel and not stay put. So my carbon footprint goes up, and I should do my part. And, I just started this 10 pieces of trash pickup challenge. I mean, if I can pick up 10 pieces of trash, I should also go plant a tree every trip I take, And I agree. And I thank you for pointing that out, because I need to become aware of my own actions. And that's something, I'll be very honest, I never thought about. And I'm appreciative that you brought it up. And I'm going to definitely get more info from you that I'm going to post it for the Facebook post about how people can look more into this. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And even if it's just sharing information, I think it's helpful. I did a trip, an epic trip where I calculated, I was like, oh my God, I need to plant 300 trees. Like, I don't have the space for that.
Oh man.
But it's being aware and saying, okay, if I'm going to do this, then it should be for a really great reason, or I'm going to find some other way to contribute to taking care of the earth if I'm going to use it in such a way. So I think it's good to be aware, even if you financially can't find a way to talk about it and share it with people too.
Yeah. And I appreciate that too, because if we think about like all the trips we take, we're like, oh my God, it becomes overwhelming. And then you feel bad. And then, then you start saying, oh, forget it. I don't care. Well, the thing is, just say, hey, can I do something? Can I plant one tree a year? That's better than the 0 you planted for the last 20. So, even I have to realize I've planted none in my last 10 years of travel and all the travels I've done. So no, I want to go out and do something. So don't be overwhelmed. I guess the whole thing, like I want to say is like, you dedicate your life towards sustainability and really conservation work. And it comes natural to you. For most of us that just travel, it's too easy to just, like you said, grab a bottle of water, throw it in the trash. Well, we're just contributing to the problem. So it's just being mindful. Just be mindful is all. Think about it. And like you said, just share with someone the information, or go water a plant outside that might be dying, or buy a plant and, grow it in your home. Do something. Something is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. I definitely want more information that I can share with that. But if we could quickly, I want to quickly run through this. I want to know what your travel ninja essentials are that you bring on your trips. What are your top 3 essential items?
Phone, power bank, and a sarong. I found that the sarong is the best piece of clothing I could ever have. It's a top, it's a skirt, it's a dress, it's a blanket. I've dried off, showered from it. I've used it as a bag, as sun protection. I've dried my drone off with it. It is the most essential thing that I bring besides my phone and my power bank.
You know what I got that's similar? It's the man style is Turkish towel. I used Turkish towel for the same thing. That's awesome. Sarong, that's a first. That's what you get when you have a woman on, a first. Camera type. What type of camera type do you usually like to bring?
I've really enjoyed taking photos with the drone. And although I have a couple different cameras, I found that I like my cell phone the best because it's just quick and easy. I can put it in my pocket and it's not cumbersome.
Sure.
So unless I'm in Africa and with a long zoom lens, then I'm just going to be out with my cell phone.
And what type of cell phone do you use?
I have a Pixel.
All right. Do you have a special or specific backpack brand you like to use?
Actually, I don't even have a backpack.
Even better, you just use the sarong.
That's right. Just use a sarong. I always have just a carry-on. So it's just one of the a rolling suitcase. I don't normally have a backpack.
Yeah, okay. So you travel light. Sneakers or boots, or being an island girl, flip-flops, slippers?
Yeah, I would say Vans. They're kind of once you've walked in them, they're just like sneakers, but you don't look like you're wearing sneakers with an outfit. So if you're trying to look cute, you can have your little Vans on.
I will say Vans on a girl they are cute.
Yeah. So, I mean, it looks some kind of way when you're wearing jeans and sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to be a little fashionable.
Sunglasses, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Do you have a brand that you like?
Look, they make you look cool and they protect your eyes. Who wouldn't like it? I have to say though, I really don't like talking to people with sunglasses on.
Yeah, I feel like myself.
You got to see someone's face. So that's my only rule. Yeah, take them off sometime.
Any brand that you choose that's your go-to?
Nope.
All right.
Whatever is cheap, I tend to abuse my stuff. So if I'm at the beach, it's going to get destroyed. I don't care what brand it is. It's getting destroyed. It's at the bottom of my bag. It's getting scratched. So
something
whatever's cheapest. Yeah.
Do you have a music genre that you like to listen to while traveling?
Well, I mostly like hip hop and R&B music, but if I go to an area and I'm feeling a different kind of way, like my recent trip to the Nordic countries, I heard a lot of music that I've never heard before. And it kind of sounds like a mix of tribal, otherworldly stuff. And I was really into it. So I listened to a lot of music that I hadn't heard before once I got into it. But yeah.
And now, really important, your top 3 to 5 apps that you use on your phone while traveling.
Definitely some kind of VPN for when I'm in areas that have internet restrictions. So my favorite right now is Tunnel Bear, and that lets me see whatever I need to see. I like Netflix for my long haul trips. So I download a bunch of videos and then I can watch it on the plane. But sometimes on the plane they'll say, they have a video or they don't, or you don't like them. So I just go with mine. One tip though, I have downloaded videos and then got to a country where that video is
doesn't
blocked.
Play. I've had the same.
So be careful of that. And then the last one is a little different. It's my Nest Cam app and my Roborock app. And the Nest Cam is basically a camera in my house so that I can check up on my cat and see I have people that come in and take care. So I like to check on my place and see how it's going. And then Roborock is my robot vacuum. So I send him on missions and I make sure that my house is clean while I'm gone.
That's awesome. Oh, that's funny. I love hearing all the new stuff from a female's perspective. That is so great. I want to have that clean home when you get back. I'm not mad at
That's
that.
right.
I like having a clean place when I come home. Now, when you travel, as an American woman, and I hate to put the stipulation out there, like, do you have fears or, I know you just get out there and go, but like, there are some fears that I think a lot of American cultural women have to get out there and go by themselves. And is there anything that you can share for people to kind of get over that?
I'm not sure that I can say anything that would help someone get over it beyond saying that I've done it. I mean, people sometimes look at others' lives and they think that's untouchable and it's different. So the best advice that I can give is just do it. Just try it once, go for a little swim in the shallow end and then see that everything's fine. And then you can go deeper and deeper and you'll gain confidence as you go.
Yeah, I love that. Just get out there and do it. So everyone keeps saying, just give it a try, a little bit of time. Now again, I know you're kind of the anomaly, but being a woman, does it impact where you choose to go or does it not matter for you?
Not at all. I think I just go wherever I want, wherever I want to go. Wait, I take that back. There's one place that I thought about going, but I didn't go. It was Aceh, Indonesia. They have Sharia law, which is very restrictive for women. And I definitely won't put myself in that kind of position where I'd have problems. So I wouldn't go to some places that have Sharia law. That's it.
So can you share what Sharia law is? Like, meaning as a woman, like do some extra research, especially if you're going to travel alone, to do some research of what's going on. But can you explain what that is?
So I think there's a lot of misconceptions. People think when they think of Muslims, they usually think of what they see going on sometimes in the Middle East on the news. Mm-hmm. And they see women wearing head to toe coverings, hearing that they can't drive, that they're not allowed to go out and, talk to males. And most Muslims aren't like that at all. I lived in the number one most Muslim populated country in the world, and I didn't have any problem whatsoever. But there are extremists, just like in America. There are some like very religious extremists here as well. That's not the majority, but if you go to a place where they are very religiously extreme, you should be ready. So for the Muslim extreme religious areas, they have this thing called Sharia law, and they make up rules for society, like, women. This just as an example in Aceh, like women can't ride the motorbike forward. You have to sit sideways.
Weird.
Or just like weird things that you wouldn't think of and that aren't normal in a Muslim, in a regular Muslim community. So, but it's only in one city in Aceh, and it's way far out there. You wouldn't know it. Like you wouldn't just like drive through the town. It's like on the tip, on the edge, one of the islands. So definitely you wouldn't just run into it. You'd intentionally have to go to a place like that. But beyond that, no, I don't find that I've been restricted at all.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Do you have any tips, being like you travel so much and you said you bring a carry-on, and for most females that I've known to travel, like, oh, I have to bring this big bag and I have all these things because I'm a woman. Like, can you give any tips to like help make it a little more simple and efficient? That, what are the essentials for you?
Yeah, there's only 2 trips that I've been on that I've had to check a bag. Every other trip I've been on in my life, I've always gone with a carry-on. That's it.
You're doing better than me, and I'm a dude, and I pack pretty light. That's pretty light.
I can't stand checking a bag. I like keeping my stuff. I like not waiting at the belt. I like going on with my day. I don't want to lug it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
I've also had my bag stolen.
Oh, man.
And I've had problems with the bag. So that's why it's only been 2 times. And one of the times I just had a lot of gear. I was doing a free diving trip and I just had a lot of stuff. So I would say if I can live for like a month traveling with a carry-on bag, definitely you can too. It's possible. And I like to be fashionable. So it's not saying like I'm wearing like leggings every day and a sarong on top. So
that's funny.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. So my advice, I think, is for men and women. It's not, specifically to women. Number one, if you're doing a long haul trip, plan for jet lag. So in advance of leaving an area, you figure out what time you'll be landing. So let's say I'm leaving Hawaii at night. You'd think, okay, well then I should sleep on the plane. No, actually,
Right.
because where I'm going to be landing, it's going to be night, for example.
Yeah.
So I need
Force
to stay
yourself.
awake on the plane so that I can actually fall asleep in the country that I'm landing in. It means that you absolutely exhaust yourself, like on this plane ride. Whatever you need to do, do not fall asleep, so that you pass it through in one day instead of ruining 4 days of your trip, waking up at 3 a.m. and being tired at noon.
Yeah, I tease, and it might be kind of a rude tease, but I just tell myself that I don't believe in jet lag. But in reality, it's managing your time on the plane, and it's just knowing where you're going, when you'll be landing there, and what you need to be doing. You said it perfectly. Just managing your time.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say another tip is I use Google Fi. This is only for, I guess, Americans. Google Fi provides internet and Wi-Fi anywhere I go in the world. So I never need a SIM card. I just show up, and actually while the plane is landing, I get a notification and I have internet. So
Whoa!
it's
And how
been
do you get
amazing.
that?
Google Fi, just
Yeah.
just type that in Google and you'll find the website. It used to be that you could only get Google Fi with a Google phone. That's why I have a Pixel. But now they've opened it up to iPhone users and different kinds of users, so you can get it.
That's freaking awesome. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
When you get to cities, when you get to these new places, and you've got your carry-on and your sarong, how do you determine like how you're going to get around? How do you figure that out? What's your skill set here on doing this?
I'm all about efficiency and speed. So whatever that means in the place that I'm at, for example, in Japan, that meant train. In Indonesia, sometimes it means motorbike. Actually, so I can tell you a quick story. One time in Japan, I had a day in one city just because that's how it worked out. And I heard most people say that you're going to need 3 days to visit all these temples because you just have to walk. There is no way to go. There's no train. There's no like public transportation. And I said, I disagree. And I just hired a car, basically a guy to drive me from temple to, whatever area. And so I got everything done in the day that I wanted it. So whatever is the most efficient for me. Obviously that's not to say that there aren't very scenic routes and like, don't ride a bicycle or don't like take the slow road. But if I'm on a mission to do something, then whatever's the most efficient transportation, that's what I want.
I love that. When I went to Bangkok the first time, I wanted to see the temples, and I was only there a day and a half from Singapore. And I went down towards the temples, and I hired a tuk-tuk, and I just paid him, I think, $40 for the day or $20. And he took me to all the hidden temples, because apparently there's, I think, 12 or
Right?
13 of them, and they'll take you everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just gotta, you gotta do a little research, gotta be willing to think outside the box. But I love that. Yeah. Is there any other really cool tips and tricks that you use on your trips that's like really helped you feel safe, feel confident, feel, progressive, and to keep going, to keep you excited?
I think for me personally, I've experienced some unsafe situations, but
Hmm.
because the majority of my experiences have been so positive, that's what keeps me going. I know that the majority of my experiences are going to be amazing. And so not walking in fear, but walking in excitement is going to lead me down that path as opposed to lead me down, like a dark path of, oh God, I don't know if I should go out, so maybe I won't. Or so yeah, just kind of walking in a path of excitement and curiosity.
Keeping the mind open. I love that. What is a extremely memorable, now you're going to think it's going to be positive, but what is an extremely memorable mishap or mistake that's happened, like a complete disaster that you got through? Now, we have a question to the embarrassing, which we're not there yet, but like a mishap, like, oh, you forgot your bag here, or you had to run back and get it, missed your flight, or booked your flight to the wrong city. Have you ever had anything like that?
I've had major mishaps happen. Uh, I could spend a whole podcast talking about it, but I'll share one story. I was in Indonesia actually with Keith, one of your previous
My first guest.
podcasts. Yes, yeah, and Serena. And we decided that we wanted to go to a waterfall. And so we got in my car, I pulled it up on Google Maps, and away we went. Google Maps is a bitch because she didn't know what the hell she was doing. But I kept following it because all my life Google Maps has been right. So we went up a mountain and turned and straight and through, and we hit an area, and I was like, oh my God, you guys, like, I can't turn around. I can't turn the car around. And it's like dirt, and then becomes gravel, and then the road started washing away. There was like a waterfall that just went through the middle of the road. And I told Keith and Serena, all right, you guys, just get out of the car, and I'm going to try to like run through the washed out, like the waterfall was still going through the road. But I said, in case the car goes over the hill, I don't want you guys in the car. So you get out, I'll go through. We almost died, right? But eventually we hit a point where I said, I'm going to find a way to turn around off this cliff, off this mountain. But the car was already sliding. Like I couldn't, my foot was on the brake and I couldn't control it. And I told them, I was like, you guys take off your seatbelts. And I'll never forget, Serena was like, what do you mean take off our seatbelts? Why? I said, because if the car goes off the cliff, it's one less thing you need to do before you jump out of the car. You understand? And they both looked at me like I was fucking insane. And I said, don't worry, like, we're going to be fine. The car might not, but we're going to make it. So eventually we made it back down this cliff with, avalanche waterfalls and all. But that was a big mistake, was trusting in Google Maps. And I should have just turned around once I felt like this wasn't right. The road was wrong.
What happens when you get into third world areas and Google Maps doesn't really know what it's talking about? That's crazy. I remember when you guys came to Bali. That was really amazing. So you did a little poll yesterday or the last couple of days on your Instagram and Facebook about what you should talk about. And I found out that the most wanted to talk about was the most embarrassing story that you can share.
You guys are terrible.
So what do you got? Let's this is the first time I've got to ask somebody this, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. All right. Well, so I was in Africa and I was in the Serengeti. I was with my brother and we rented a Jeep and a driver and we're just kind of driving around. But it's absolutely in the middle of nowhere. It takes hours and hours to get here. The problem was I had a bit of stomach issues from the food, from who knows what it was from. But it decided to show its ugly head in the middle of the fucking Serengeti. So I suddenly was like, stop the car. Oh my God, I need to use a bathroom so bad. Not a joke. This is not like number one. This is a number two, like explosion moment, like help me. And the driver looked back at me and he was like, well, there's a lion's den over there or the open field over there. What do you want?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, I'll take the rock, the den, because at least it's somewhat protected. I'm not out in the middle of nowhere. So I was just about to hop out of the car basically and try to use the bathroom, which you shouldn't. You should never get out of the car in the middle of, a place like this. But it was either I'm going to like crap in the car and ruin it for everybody or go outside of the car. So before I get out, my brother was like, wait. And I thought he'd have some advice for me. And he pulled out his phone and he hits record. He's like, okay, I'm ready now. I want to capture your death
on
my camera.
Gosh.
So I go out to the rock and I'm doing my thing, just squatting there in the middle of the Serengeti. And I look to my left and I see a fucking lion. And I was like, I'm already shitting my brains out. I don't know how much.
Couldn't go anymore.
How much more this, like how, and it's not like, advertisement. Hello, like smell, there's something over here. Come check it out.
Oh my gosh.
And I looked to my right and I saw a cheetah. He was further off though, but I know they're fast. And then I'm panicked, like, I don't know what I should do. Do I just like stay squatted, don't move? Should I run back around towards the Jeep? What should I do? And then I heard the sound of another Jeep coming around the bend, like around another side that I didn't see. And if anyone's ever been to Africa, everybody basically stands up in these Jeeps with these long lens cameras, like Nat Geo cameras, like ready to capture any moment. So I was like, okay, everyone is going to see my bare ass squatting explosive diarrhea on this lion's rock. And I'm like, everyone's going to have like close-up photos of me doing this. What the hell am I going to do? So I was really panicked, but I just like ran back to the car, and no, the lion didn't get me. Cheetah could care less, and nobody captured a photo that I think nobody captured a photo of what I was doing. But yeah, that was the most embarrassing. I felt so bad, and it could have gone really horrible. It
got a lot worse.
It could have been really bad. Yeah. I got a photo of the lion.
That is so funny. Now, if you, other than baby wipes, next time you go back to Africa, what would be the top 3 things that you bring? So I haven't been, and I want to go. I've only been to Egypt, and that's not down in Serengeti, and that's not into, where you've been, India. Like, what are some things, what are the top 3 things that you would bring back next time you go?
Anti-diarrhea pills.
I love
and
the
actually,
honesty.
I to this day always pack anti-diarrhea pills, even if I don't use them, because of that experience.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I'd say there's another thing that people don't tell you about. The tsetse flies are pretty common there. And these flies bite you, and it hurts. I don't mean like mosquito bite. I mean like you hit yourself in the face, like it hurts. And they're attracted to certain colors, and they can bite through clothing. So I would be really, really particular about what clothing you bring.
Yeah.
And then bring that scarf, bring that sarong, bring that whatever, multifunctional piece that you could wrap around your face, your neck, your arms, that you could swat. Have you ever seen that movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy and,
Yes.
the father?
Yeah.
The father is always walking around with that little like tail that he's like flicking.
Yeah.
That's for a reason, it's not like it's like, I mean, obviously not in that movie, but that's to swat away these like epic flies, because you're going to want to murder them from the pain that they will inflict on you. So definitely clothing is really important if you go to Africa. If you're in the, the wilderness part of Africa, not if you're like in the modern city zones.
Right. Oh, that's a great piece of advice. I never even have obviously it's going to be bad, but I wouldn't know it's that bad. So thank you for that. Now, when you get going on these big trips, could you help any of us, because you've done some amazing stuff, and obviously you've had some amazing opportunities, and the bucket list that is yours is mostly unachievable for most of us, which is okay. But when it comes to traveling and preparing, how do you get yourself geared up for this? Is there any tricks that you could help us with in saving, in setting the plan to get it done?
What I normally do is I look at travel like a job. I mean, that I take it seriously. And usually at the beginning of the year, I'll make a schedule for the year about what I'm doing, where I'm going to go, and what's going to happen. It's not like I just say, well, I've got free time now, because you're never going to have free time. You're never going to be ready. There's no amount of preparation that you can psych yourself up. You just have to plan it. And once you plan for a trip, you will find a way. It's kind of like, I hear, I don't have any children, but my friends that have children say something similar. They say, you'll never be ready for children. You can't prepare, no amount of books, no amount of anything. You just getting in there and doing it. And I think that's the same thing for stuff like this. You just can't prep enough. You just need to start doing it. And that's how you're going to learn. And that's how you're going to get more comfortable with it. And you're going to realize, okay, I like to travel a little bit more expensively, so I need to save a little bit further. Or I like traveling on a budget, and so I like little 2-day trips. You're going to learn as you go what you like, and you don't have to copy anyone else's style. You just figure out what you like the most.
I love that, because you know what? That's really how life should be. You set the goal and then you work backwards, because if you can see it and you can put it down and you can envision it, you will find a way to make it happen, but you have to set the goal first.
Right.
Yeah. Incredible. What is it that travel has really, really just impacted you in a way that, it really keeps you going, it really keeps you grounded? Because now it seems you have a home base, you do travel a lot and you have a home base, but what is it that's impacted you in your everyday life to really want to keep going?
I would say understanding people. I think one of the lacking qualities that I find in our society is the ability to empathize and understand people that we don't get. For
Yeah.
example, a lot of people don't understand why someone would be opposed to abortion. You just think immediately, this person is an idiot, they're trying to control my life. But if you sit down with someone that really believes that and you focus all your effort into understanding their point of view, you're going to find that these are good people. They have great intentions. They just see things slightly differently than we do. And I think in today's political climate, the ability to look at someone and not say, the reason they live like that is because they're an idiot, is a big step. Because
Mhm.
as long as we just call each other idiots and like kind of distance ourselves from each other, we'll never unite and get closer and be able to help and work with one another. So I would say definitely understanding others that I don't understand is a skill that always needs fine tuning and always needs a reminder. I'm always practicing as best I can restraint. So I think that's the most important thing that I get from traveling and interacting with people is viewing other cultures and other mentalities as perfect in themselves. The Muslim one is another. There's a lot of people that feel like they're trying to save women who were, wearing these burqas. If you talk to a woman wearing a burqa, she chose to wear it. She wants to wear it. It's the equivalent of a nun telling a nun to remove her outfit.
Yeah.
It's most disrespectful to her. So I think there's a lot of point of views that we just look at on a surface level, and it's easy to just brush it off because who has time to think about all these things? So,
So true.
um,
So
yeah,
true.
taking the time to understand things we don't understand.
Keeping that mind open. Keith said, double pack an open mind when you travel. What would you say is the greatest gift? And I hate to be gender specific, but being the first woman on the show, and as much as you travel, I think this is really important. And I want to hear, as well, what is the greatest gift other, women travelers receive for themselves through traveling abroad, not in your own country, but actually out of your own country?
Yeah, I would say realizing life opportunities. I'll give you an example. When I was in Africa, I went on a hot air balloon ride, and I chatted with the pilot and his wife, and they're not from there. They just moved there to do that as a business. And I sat and thought, how cool would it be to basically fly over hippos and through the Serengeti every day for as long or as however many times I wanted to, as a job.
Yeah.
What is that? Or go to Indonesia and see that you could be a scuba dive instructor and dive in some of the most gorgeous places in the world as a job. So it kind of opened my mind to the life possibilities that I could try. And I think often when you surround yourself with people that are doing like a regular 9 to 5, your mentality is, how can I be CEO?
Yeah,
How can I be
sure.
manager? How can I have a better car and a better house? But in traveling, the gift that I received is, how can I live a million lives within my one life?
Oh,
If I
powerful.
was some kind of vampire that had, endless time on this earth, why not try, a
Everything.
lifetime being one of this and a lifetime trying that? So I think that's been the greatest gift for me.
It's one of my favorites I hold for myself is live a life that's worth living. And that, I think, follows exactly what you said. It's just in different words. And most people, a lot of what I've learned in trying things is just one thing might not be the one thing that we keep forever. The shoes that we're in might not be the shoes that we're in the future, and be flexible to the things and the opportunities that we're going to come across, and what might interest us now might not interest us in 2 years. So being flexible, and again, keeping that open mind. Now, this is my last favorite question. And I've asked the last two guests, if right now you were to see yourself as little Miss Tenaiya with her sarong on and her slippers walking through Hawaii on the street, and you had your little backpack on and you were headed to school, what would be the most solid piece of advice you could give her?
Um, I think I've done pretty good with my life. So I don't know that I would want to give myself, any different path to be on. I think
Hmm.
there's one thing that pretty specific to my life, which is to not loan people money without the thought that you're not going to get it back.
Wow.
Um, I've definitely been of the position that I've been financially fortunate. And oftentimes what comes with that is the ability to help others, but it can't come with the thought that that's going to come back to me. So, like as a kid, I was, as a teenager, I've been working and saving money, for the longest time. I've definitely not spent it. I've invested it. I've done well for myself, and I could have done even better for myself and the charities that I try to support if I hadn't loaned money with the intention of getting it back.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're going to loan, just think of it as a gift and don't ever think to get it back.
Yes, you give openly with no expectations and no intentions. And, speaking of what you do for work, and as we start to wrap this up, that reminds me of, just to remember what we're going through and that, Mother Earth gives to us endlessly, and she never asks anything and she never expects anything. And she just gives endlessly, even as much as we take. And I'm glad you shared that, because that reminds me of how I feel about, our life in general. And that's beautiful. And so I really want you to just share a bit, if you could, please, what you're working on and why, if you don't mind. I'd really love for the audience to hear a little bit more about that, because, you do super motivate me. You've always inspired me for what you do and how you give to other people. And you open your life up to just try and make not only people, but this world a better place. And I would love for people to kind of know what you're doing. And if you can, please share some of your social media information, or how can we follow you? How can we support you? How can we, be a part of your journey.
Well, thank you. I'm happy if I'm inspiring anyone.
Mhm.
I've been working a lot on environmental changes for Hawaii. So, trying to pass bills that will reduce our plastic consumption, help with recycling, just trying to make sure that what we're doing here at home is the best that we can. Obviously, being an island, it's harder to do things here than it is like on the mainland, for example. So we import 80 to 90% of our food. And I'm trying to pass laws that will make sure that we're supporting local farmers and using food hubs, and that our schools are using local food, not imported food. So there's been a lot of environmental legislative work that I was focused on before COVID-19. But now that we're in this epidemic, a lot of my work has been towards food insecurity. So there's vulnerable people in the population that they can't pay for food, they can't get to food, or let's say you can pay and you can go get it, but you go to the stores and it's completely empty, and there's important supplies that people need. So basically, I'm trying to fill the gaps where we see there is a need. I've been doing a lot of work. You guys can look up kupuna kokua. And in Hawaiian, kupuna just is like your elder, like your grandparents, for example. And kokua is a responsibility to kind of do things right and take care of something. So we're taking care of our kupuna. And we're trying to get them food. We're trying to get them their medicine and their supplies. We're working with food banks. There is different organizations that are just coming together. No one's getting paid. This is not government stuff. It's just people in the community who have time. I have a lot of friends that are working so hard right now. They're not sleeping. That's how hard they're trying to work to save others. And not everybody's in those positions. So my hats are off to them that they can give so much. If in your area you're feeling bored and you've watched all of Netflix, I would suggest hitting the internet to find out what the needs are in your area. I can give you some examples of things in Hawaii that might be similar in other cities. So for example, we have sponsor kupuna, which basically means we get in touch with older people, and we call them and we help them and we grocery shop for them. There's food rescue organizations like food banks and organizations that will take food from restaurants that are shutting down and not just throw it in the trash, but make meals with it and give it out to people that are in need. There's always Meals on Wheels programs. Like those are still happening, especially now where you can deliver food. Humane Society, you can foster a pet. I've been so pleased in Hawaii. The Hawaii Humane Society ran out of animals. That's how quickly the community came together and fostered and adopted out 500 animals just from people caring. You can sew masks, you can provide childcare, or you can connect with Airbnb if you have like homes for frontline workers. Obviously not that you're living in, right? You can host classes online for others. Like we all have knowledge to give. Why not give it during this time? And it might turn into a business for you later. You know, I've taken classes on all kinds of things: Photoshop, belly dance, painting, yoga. Like you can learn a language. You can do any kind of thing online. So I would definitely just start Googling what's needed in your area. And if you have the time to just even basically volunteer from your couch and help out as you can. If you want to follow me, I have 2 Instagram pages that you guys can check out. One is for my kind of environmental, political, kind of civic duty page, and it's at Tenaiya, just my first name. And then the second one, which is kind of like my fun page, which is all travel stuff. It's all real-time adventures. It's Travel with Tenaiya.
And I'm going to get both of those from you written, and I'll share them on the Facebook page for Inspire the Collective, so you can find them there, and I will share them on Instagram as well with the stories.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, as we near the end of this episode, Tenaiya, I just really want to say thank you so much for being on the show. Truly an honor to hear your stories, hear your adventure, and hear what you're doing just as far as your human work for this planet and our society of people. I'm really thankful that you got to be a part of this and help me continue this journey for the podcast and inspiring people. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your stories. I really appreciate it.
I love what you're doing, and I'm really excited for your journey. I've known you for quite some time now, and it's exciting to see the adventure of your life, actually, even more so than the adventure of your journeys of travel. So my hat's off to you.
Thank you so much. And Tenaiya, welcome to the family and the tribe of Inspire the Collective. I really ask you to stay safe out there in Hawaii where you're at. Keep that bag strapped and laced. And to wrap it up, the Pro Traveler Mindset tip for the week is: you become what you surround yourself with. Energies are contagious, so choose carefully. Your environment will become you. And that's going to wrap it up for the 3rd episode of What's in Your Backpack. Thank you for joining Tenaiya and I on this journey. And for next week, we're going back to back with Women Travel Junkies, as I have Miss April Mamalayan, the Filipina travel star, currently living and working in Singapore. This young lady has her goals in mind, and seeing the world seems to top the list. She's a little firecracker of attitude, emotion, and perspective. Amazing hospitality professional, smart, ambitious, and she even has her own side business back in the Philippines that helps her keep the travel addiction alive. She definitely spoils herself in life's pleasures. If any of the listeners have any questions about how she does what she does, curious about crazy stories she has encountered, or anything else you can think of that we can ask Miss April, please reach out to us and comment, message, share, whatever is on your mind, so we can have her input on what you want to hear about. Until next week's episode, stay safe out there, stay humble, and stay tuned for another episode of What's in Your Backpack. Stay current with Inspire the Collective and head over to join our Facebook page, where there will be updated photos, Tenaiya's tips, and information from the journey that we shared today from this podcast, plus much, much more. We are further expanding our reach, so please join us and get involved as we grow our web-based community. You can find us at www.inspirethecollective.com. Again, our Facebook and YouTube page at Inspire the Collective. And don't forget to follow my Instagram at Michael__O'Shea to get your fill of inspirational content, podcast updates, and travel fun. Try to remember that you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a plane ticket. And that's sort of the same thing.